All right, everyone, at long last, another summit between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un has been finally scheduled. Now, it is entirely possible that over the next couple of weeks, it's scheduled for the end of February. It's likely that you'll see some diplomatic quarrel. One nation, the U.S. or North Korea, or maybe some other third-party actor, will say something disrespectful, and then the other side will say, okay, the plan's off for now, and then they'll get back together, probably hold it on time anyway. So you can expect that's likely. And the media will have a field day. Like, the media is not going to widely report on this summit, which is going to take place in Hanoi. But they would report if it looked like the summit was going to go off. They did that before, and they were completely wrong, and I correctly predicted, of course, at the time, hey, it's still on. It's just a diplomatic quarrel as a lead-up to the summit to make sure that the two states are on an even footing. It's sort of like a tradition, I guess, in North Korea. This is a good thing. By and large, I'm optimistic. I think they'll have decent conversations. Will this lead to a peace arrangement? Not immediately. Will it lead to denuclearization? Not immediately. You need more Chinese pressure. The big players now have become the ROK and DPRK themselves. The big players are now North and South Korea. They have been primarily taking the fore, rebuilding rail connections, demining the DMZ, blowing up border stations, moving back artillery. They've been reconnecting roads. They've been holding multiple summits, including at the Peace Village, among other locations. For the first time, they stepped into one another's physical territory, which is highly symbolic. They're taking the fore. The Cold War is melting away very quickly in Korea with regards to their relations. The holdouts are the U.S. and China. What you see here, progress is more slow. Because the two Koreas themselves are like, well, you know, we've been on a war footing forever. We're all Koreans. Who fucking cares? The U.S., though, has military interest in the region, specifically with regards to denuclearization. China has interest in the region, primarily in not wanting a potentially hostile state with a significant land border touching them. That wouldn't be good for China's strategic interests within the region. That's why, but my own feeling is that their African expansionism, their attempt to expand into East Africa, the Nicaragua Canal, which will probably never get built in all honesty, it was just a prelude to them building a military base, which they successfully did. Their move into Djibouti, building a significant base there. Their move into the Spratly Islands chain, fortifying them, basically taking coral reefs and turning them into small military bases for anti-air and other weapon systems. All of those moves are defensive in posturing, number one, preventative in posturing, number two, and indicate that it's probably not coincidentally related to the contemporary moves that they've made with actually agreeing to embargoes and sanctions on Korea to put pressure on Kim Jong-un. It signals that China's no longer willing to pull that dead weight, wants a reunification or at least peace, so North Korea can develop, stops being a threat whether it denuclearizes or not, and won't be a hostile state, number two, either as semi-separate and not hostile, or a full-on rejoining of Korea results in a neutral state. That's what China wants. So long as that's guaranteed, and so long as the U.S. restrains Japan from becoming a nuclear state, I think the Chinese are generally on board with a peace agreement. But that's really the thing. Trump can't sign a piece of paper and end the Korean War. The two Koreas have to do that. The U.S. and China are interested parties that are technically at hostilities with these states as well, in one form or another, along with others. Japan has a seat at the table. Russia has a seat at the table. They share a small land border with North Korea. A lot of their cities on their eastern side are within range of potentially nuclear strikes from North Korea. And they don't get along that well. Russian smugglers love North Korea because they can make a lot of money off a few bags of rice. But the government, like Putin's not friendly towards Kim Jong-un. He's expressed a desire for the U.S. not to haul off and get involved more than it already is in the region, but he's not an ally of the North Koreans. They don't have a reciprocal defense treaty. My hope is that after the Hanoi summit, which I think is going to last 2 different days, my hope is that there are enough assurances and enough good feelings that things will go ahead on the other front, which is the two Koreas. Again, what I've said is, who gives a fuck if there's denuclearization, if there's a peace agreement? If South Korea is no longer under threat, if they formally end the war, our presence is no longer necessary, strictly speaking. You've got a semi-reunified Korea. There would be no cause for North Korea to randomly attack a nation that it had signed a peace treaty with and was rebuilding ties to. The Chinese would invade them if they tried that. And the U.S. knows that, but you can look. The warmongers don't want Korean peace. It's very lucrative. It helps you build weapon systems and get contracts and, you know, put more troops there and shit to look at the Chinese, I guess. They don't want peace. They'll do everything in their power to stymie those negotiations and slow them down. They're hoping to kick the can down the road past a Trump presidency so they can go back to the old way. The Obama way was, hey, here's a red line, don't cross it. Oh, you crossed it, here's a sanction. The Bush way is, here, if you cross this red line, there'll be war. Oh, you crossed it? Well, you know, fuck off. The Clinton line was, hey, we're going to give you nuclear materials because we want you to become an atomic power so that we can use it as a justification to keep up our military presence in East Asia. It's basically what the plan was all along. Bunch of fucking warmongers. Herbert Walker and all the bullshit. Ronald Reagan seeming like the sane one in the room is always a problem when you're talking about warmongers. My hope is that it goes well. I expect it'll go at least reasonably well. It'll be like a B+ conference. I don't expect it to result in a formal peace agreement. I don't expect it to result in a formal end to the Korean War in any manner. But what I do expect is that if the U.S. continues to draw down sort of rhetoric, Kim Jong-un is willing to be nice and not threaten annihilation and stuff, and at least they shake hands, they have dinner, they get along, they can show they can be in a room together without screaming at each other or something, that shows the people of North Korea and the United States peace is possible. For the first time since the Korean War began, peace is possible without a war in the region. That's something no other president all along the line has accomplished. In the first wave, the politicians, they say, okay, well, we'll beat up the commies up there. We'll reunite it ourselves along with the UN, along with NATO forces. Didn't work. They lost. Well, they didn't lose, but I mean, there's a stalemate, never a formal peace negotiation. Subsequent generations of politicians, they've tried the carrot, like Clinton did. It doesn't work. They've tried the stick. It doesn't work. They've tried negotiating. It doesn't work. Trump is the only one that's made headway. They still want to claim that he's going to fail. He's the only one who can succeed. No other president has used the kind of particular strategy Trump employs. And in regards to Korea, it is working extremely well. My hope is that he carries over and things get going in Venezuela at some point. It'd be lovely to have one less drastically suppressed nation run by a dictator in this hemisphere. Be wonderful if they became an actual functional republic and, you know, had the wealth that they deserve for having so much fucking fuel. Unfortunately, it'll take some time. Maduro's still there. Somehow people haven't killed him yet. It's only a matter of time. That's about all. Peace out.